And wow, Kirkman really likes his Robotech missiles. Welcome back,
Okay.
folks, to another episode of the Lone Wolf Howlcast, howling out for logic and reason in a world that doesn't know the definition of those words anymore after a conversation I had, well, loosely phrased the word conversation tonight. Anyway, a couple more reviews, folks, before we start getting into the nitty gritty again. There's just too much fun stuff to talk about out there. And Terrell, I think you can agree that the world needs some fun right now, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So, we were going to talk about Invincible tonight, which is on Prime. It's the new Robert Kirkman comic book turned anime. As well as, if we get a chance, Disney may have taken a turn for the better with The Bad Batch, which is a spin-off from season 6 of the Clone Wars. Not even season 6, but like the last few episodes of season 6 of the Clone Wars animated. So, I know you really wanted to talk about Invincible tonight, Ram, so take it
hmm
away.
I just want to say it's a fantastic show. Before we get into spoilers territory, let's just talk without spoilers for a bit.
I know, but if I say it now, at least they'll expect it later, even though I'm going to say it 10 more times probably.
Okay. The story is great. The voice acting is amazing. The music is fantastic. The feel of the show is great. I feel there's very few things you can criticize it about. That I remember seeing the comics and I thought it just looked like knockoffs of DC and Marvel. But what Robert Kirkman is doing is just his take on superheroes, and it's great. It's just fantastic. It is not second rate. There's two criticisms you can have: is the animation quality is pretty cheap, and there is some issues with the side characters because the main storyline and the main characters of the show are so fantastic and so interesting and compelling. You kind of think of anytime the camera moves away from them, you feel like it's a waste of time. Yeah, like the side characters just aren't that good. So it is a great show. Highly recommend. Me and Lone Wolf, we've been talking theories since the show started because it's such a good thing. Spoilers are abound because it was a comic book that ran for a couple years and ended in 2018. So all over the internet, the whole series is already done, and Robert Kirkman has said that they're going to follow the comic books pretty closely. He's going to add more to it, but more or less, if you want to spoil yourself, it's very easy to. But I think it's much more fun not to just go in there fresh and enjoy the ride. What do you think, Lone Wolf?
Okay, I agree with you on the animation. Let's just do this again. Spoiler alert. I agree with you the animation. It feels on par, maybe slightly better than like Hanna-Barbera Space Ghost or Johnny Quest. Like there's some scenes where it's Venture Brothers quality. For those of you that don't
Yeah,
know, the Venture Brothers is a mock satire of the old school Hanna-Barbera Johnny Quest style cartoons with modernized animation, but it still has the same flavor, still has the same design to it, but just updated, I guess. So there's some scenes like the fight scenes, right? Like it seems like they saved their budget for the fight
hmm
scenes and special effects.
right. They pick and choose their spots.
The story is very compelling. It does feel somewhat Peter Parkery at first with like the high school teen and he's juggling these newfound responsibilities and he's got the girlfriend but he doesn't want to tell her because he doesn't want to put her at risk or he doesn't know that he can trust her with the secret identity and he's always disappearing with some super transparent, lame ass excuse as to why he needed to leave or go do something. That's very classic Spider-Man Peter Parker. I will go. I'm going to flip flop around, folks. I apologize. We're actually recording later than we normally do. The voice acting choices, though. Whoa. J.K. Simmons as Omni Man, aka Dad, or Nolan is his character, his secret identity name. That was, I can't picture anybody else in that role after him playing that role. Walton Goggins as Cecil, who is the head of this universe's version of S.H.I.E.L.D. And he starts out as what seems like a bureaucratic scumbag, and it turns out that this guy just keeps selling pieces of his soul a little at a time in order to try and keep the planet safe. I know there were some other things that when we were talking offline that I pointed out to you, and I've forgotten all of them, Thrall. But all in all, very enjoyable. The lead-in to the finale, I think you and I kind of were guessing at that, though, maybe by episode 2?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to theorize because the show is good. That's why I keep saying like, don't read the spoilers because the story in the show is so good that you want to have the fun of trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for guys like you and me that are esteemed super nerds, I think it was a little transparent, actually. I think there was a couple preview or like post-episode preview of the next episode shots that may have accidentally given away too much information. Like what kind of put the red flags up for me was one of the preview shots where Omni-Man has these bloodshot red eyes. And before knowing how he got those, I immediately thought that was either some sort of like super drug going off in his system or that he was being controlled somehow.
Right. That's a good fake out.
Yeah, right? Spoiler alerts. So Terrell and I were talking by episode 2 and 3 that, let me backtrack that a little bit, folks. We both watched Brightburn, and Brightburn took the Superman spin that instead of sending a protector out into the universe, whatever, I don't think they named the planet or the people that Brightburn is from in that particular movie, but they're sending out pretty much like frontiersmen. They're sending out conquerors and dictators and whatnot, and people that are pretty much out to expand the empire of whatever their home nation is called. So, spoiler alert, Thrall and I were discussing that exact same angle for Invincible by like episode 2 or maybe 3, but like early in the season. So I think we might have picked up on it again just because of our excessive nerdiness. That he wasn't there to be the Boy Scout protector that we know about the other guy who wears the red and blue tights. I don't know if we're allowed to say his name because we're not licensing the product. But it became pretty obvious that he wasn't the super good guy that he was cracked up to be. There are also some surprise guest voice acting in this as well. Mark Hamill plays an extremely small character, and I think he changed his voice enough that you wouldn't even know it's him until you saw the credits. I do enjoy the cold open into the splash screen. You know, like
With
how
the
they have
blood.
yeah, and well, that was one of your favorite things. I'm going to steal your thunder. I'll let you talk
Go
about
for
that.
it.
All right, fine. So it's really cool that they'll give you maybe 5-10 minutes of the episode, and then some character will go to say the name or the word Invincible, and instead of the actual word being said, the show splash screen comes up, and it's Invincible, Robert Kirkman, and other guy. I can't remember the other author's name. It escapes me at the moment. And each episode, there's a bit more blood splatter on the splash screen until by the finale, it's pretty much all blood.
Yeah, it's a great effect. I gotta say, like Walking Dead was great. The comics were fantastic, and
Oh, yeah.
the first few seasons of the show were great too. But you know, you, it's a surprise that he's not a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, because he
Like
doesn't only have these two things. He had something else that he just recently did. And it's, oh, wait a minute. Didn't he do some like little cottage project called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something like that?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah, he's that guy. He's
we
also
never
that
heard of
guy.
it. Yeah. I mean, it's like, he's not a one-hit wonder. The guy can just come out with
Mm,
fantastic things. And he's got things to say. That's the other part. Like he has ideas and not all his ideas are great, but a lot of
yeah.
them are. With much respect.
They do differentiate Omni-Man from Superman, and that we haven't seen Omni-Man use any kind of X-ray vision or heat vision / laser vision
Right.
or freezing breath, or if you want to believe the OG Superman 2, he hasn't ripped the symbol off of his uniform and used it to tangle people up with either. Nor did he make anybody forget the last few hours of their life with a kiss.
Yeah,
So
it's yeah.
he's pretty
Yeah,
much he pretty much just falls into the god tier strength, impervious, can fly. He's also not crazy super smart, which Superman is allegedly supposed to be. If you've read the one shot Red Sun, Sun being SON, Superman is supposed to be period genius level intelligence, as well as being just superb at everything else.
So this brings up actually a criticism, but it's not a show breaking criticism you and I both had. Power scaling in this show is very strange. One
Yes.
minute, like a hero would get their asses kicked by something, and the next minute they would just beat up something that looks so much more powerful, or vice versa. Like I know they do it for effect. I think it's for just for to build up tension or for rule of cool for awesomeness, like an awesome fight scene. But every once in a while, it gets to me like, hey, he was beating up an asteroid before, and now he's getting his ass kicked by a bunch of cybernetic
Yeah. So
robots. Like,
these like bionic men get sent after him, and their bionics are made out of earth metals, and this guy is son of Superman, so he should be punching craters through them each time,
yeah, and
and
we
like
have
he's not
seen
even
him
making
punch
a dent.
craters.
Yeah, exactly. We actually have seen him punch craters. I think he might have punched a volcano. I might be misremembering something else too. But these
No,
bionic
but
guys kick the crap out of him.
I mean, again, it's not game breaking. It's not like it takes you out of it or anything. But it's just kind of like it's weird. Like 1 second he's getting hit by an asteroid, no, sorry, a satellite weapon system, and the next minute these helicopters with missiles are shooting at him, and he's hurt. Like it's like,
Yeah.
eh. But I think the rule of cool is at play where it just looks great. Like we're just gonna have all this junk on him. Like the movie, the show could not be a non-animated movie. It just couldn't be. Like you can't tell this story with real people or real special effects because it would be too costly. So I'm not saying this is a huge criticism. It's just one of those things that kind of like get you after you're done watching the show where you're like, wait, what? But it's small. It's not a big deal. But yeah, power scaling is strange. The characters are only as powerful as they need to be to get to the next scene.
Right. Well, that's Dragon Ball theory, right?
Right.
These guys already start out at pretty much Superman tier, and then what happens after that, right? Like, how do you scale past that, and then they just become like infinite godlike in their ability,
Now that being said, though, I kind of like your observation that it's like the Peter Parker thing. I like that the main character in Invincible, his name is Invincible, and he gets his kicked all the time. He he gets rocked all the time. But he just started to be a superhero. Like, okay, it makes sense that he's not good at his job.
But unlike Peter Parker, who had to figure everything out on his own, Invincible is being taught by the most superior superhero on the planet, his dad, aka Omni-Man.
Yeah.
And his dad, by the way, folks, his dad does not go easy on him at all. It's like, okay, you want to learn how to fight Muhammad Ali, new guy? Well, here's Muhammad Ali, and you're going to get in the ring with him right now. How do I block? Oh, don't worry
Tough
about that. You'll
love,
figure it out as you
man.
go. you know?
Yeah, like the toughest of tough love. One thing this show, and I think I didn't realize it till today when I realized we had to prepare for today's podcast. If you look at the internet and you look at what people see, almost every episode, there's no filler episodes. Even like the most like filler-ish episodes actually have like a scene or two that make you think. And there's been more than one scene that makes you sit up and watch. Like, oh my God! Like in the last episode, there's a scene with Omni-Man and Invincible, and it's being memed to death because it's become iconic. And and the show has these emotional moments that hits you so hard, like the collective internet's like, holy shit. So, if you haven't watched this show, it really you got to because it is quality. The expectations for season two are very high because after getting this incredible first season, then the second season has to be good too. Should we really get into the weeds now in spoiler territory now? I mean, both of us have been.
Oh, we didn't do that already? I totally was dropping spoilers already, man.
I mean, you were describing. I thought, like, I mean,
Well, there's two other observations too that we
okay, go ahead.
one that I really liked. I don't think I discussed it with you yet, and then there's one that we both really liked. The one that I like is that they explain how people can potentially fly. And it's not just because they can, when Omni-Man is teaching Invincible how to fly, he's explaining it to him is that they have the ability to move matter around themselves to propel themselves. So like they're basically shunting the air around themselves in order to move themselves through space, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought that was a neat explanation instead of it just being, I can fly.
Yeah, yeah. It gave me Greatest American Hero vibes because the guy couldn't land.
That's right. Yeah, that was Greatest American Hero, and also probably a reference to Hancock, the
Yeah,
Will Smith movie, where like he takes off and like the street under him shatters, and he just lands and leaves potholes everywhere.
there was quite a few allusions. Again, we're not saying Kirkman copied or anything, but this
No, it's
semi,
homages. If anything, I'm
yeah,
seeing it as an homage.
like
So
there's this like group of shows and movies that you really need to have seen to really appreciate everything in this show too, like Hancock. 'Cause there's a lot of the issues with Hancock in here. Like, what do you do when you have a person who cannot be stopped? Like, you can't stop Omni-Man. The government can't stop Omni-Man. No one can stop Omni-Man. Like Hancock, when he went to prison, like
yeah, and the basketball bounces outside the barricade. He's
that
like, I got
exactly.
it. And he just jumps out and gets it. And like the alarms go off, and the guards are looking at each other like, how the hell do we bring him back? you know?
Yeah, like what do we do? And then you gotta watch the boys, because the boys has a story about a dark parent, and this story is about a dark parent, and you gotta go back to Star Wars, and like, so there's all this like texture into the show, and
Mm-hmm.
it's doing different things from everybody, but it's also doing some, like you said, the Red Sun, or a couple of the different versions of Superman. Like there's different. It's like Robert Kirkman's slant or remix of these ideas other people have had. I just really appreciated some of the ideas that he's playing with.
The
The
other thing you and I both liked a lot, again, his name is Cecil. He's their version of the Shield director. He's their version of Nick Fury.
Yeah, Nick
Uh,
Fury with powers, with actual superpowers.
no, Cecil doesn't have powers. He has
Yeah, he does.
technology.
Oh, is it all tech? Is it all tech?
Yeah, dude. The only way he was able to teleport around was because he had tech on him to do that.
I misunderstood. Okay.
Yeah, he had like a wristwatch teleporter, and he wasn't even able to use it just at the wristwatch. That was the teleportation locator. It was actually home base that was teleporting him around.
Okay.
Oh, that's my true thought. Oh yeah, the thing that we both thought, because everything right now is like nanotech and quantum this, and in this, Cecil and Invincible walk into this white room, and for a second there, I thought they were about to break the fourth wall, which I thought was going to be dumb, like pull a Deadpool.
Uh,
But Cecil says, turn. I forget if he says turn on the lights or turn off the lights, but
it turned out the wavelength that something like that. Yeah,
no,
wavelength
he definitely said lights.
lights. Okay.
So I was trying to equate that, but in this room, this white room, that there's nothing. It's just bleak, pure whiteness. And then somebody flips a switch somewhere, and all of a sudden they both can see exactly what's happening. And it's a giant operation suite, like surgical operation suite. And Cecil explains that, for years we've been dumping this particular chemical into the world's water reserves that prevents people from seeing certain light frequencies. So we figured out how to use that light frequency to pretty much make you blind to whatever we feel like. I thought that was pretty damn cool and is like borderline, like bleeding edge feasible, I would
It was
think.
good. It was a great idea. It was super fun.
Like if you could manipulate the rods and cones in somebody's eyes long enough to block just a certain frequency, and then you use that frequency as a wall of light, and then you can't see past it. You know what I mean? That I thought that was very clever and not as far fetched as most sci-fi superhero stuff is. You know?
It also accomplished the idea that, hey, there's some hope for humanity. Like, humans haven't just given up and said, like, all right, well, there's these superheroes we can't stop and we're not going to do anything about it. Like, no, people are trying. We're going to figure it out. Maybe we have to collaborate with aliens. Maybe we have to do hidden technology or forbidden technology. Something. But that scene also accomplished that conveyance of like, oh, the humans haven't just given up. We're not going to depend on superheroes to save us. We're gonna, if
Yeah,
Omni-Man
because the
comes
the
back,
seat the like the rank and file. I can't remember what they call themselves in the show. They're obviously not Shield. They don't use that name, but they had some other overly long acronym. But their rank and file guys actually have invisibility suits, so like they can actually sneak up on people and be effective. Terrell, we also have to address the grown-up Bobby Hill.
absolutely amazing, fantastic choice.
I actually tried to look up and see if that was on purpose. I can't find any confirmation or denial. That might be the
Okay,
next
it
conspiracy theory.
it's confirmed because when Bobby Hill was at the corpse of like the Cthulhu monster, and the Cthulhu monster started moving around, and he got into karate stance, I lost my shit. I was just like, all I heard was, "Yeah, that's my purse. I don't know you." Just Bobby Hill getting into women's self defense class like territory. Fantastic. And throughout the whole show, he always does karate as soon as he gets scared. It's the best.
I don't know. Do we want to give the spoiler or no?
Let's not.
All right. Okay. We'll leave it alone. Bobby Hill. Bobby Hill grown up. We know that he becomes much more than the underachiever he was back in his days on King of the Hill.
I just want it to be real.
Dude, that was so funny.
I
That
mean,
was so funny.
again, this goes back to the secondary characters and them not being interesting. Bobby Hill was like, in his small little way, interesting. The other characters, including his Invincible's girlfriend, best friend, the twin villains, there's just something not quite there. Anytime the show moves the camera to them, you just hope it went back to Omni-Man, Invincible, his mom. It's one weakness. The side characters are just,
Well, the mom was excellent.
yeah, the
The
mom is
mom
the
was
main
an
character.
excellent anchor for like a regular human
Right.
who's caught up in all this. Yes, he's from New York City, so like Invincible's best friend being gay, that's not really far fetched.
No, I mean, well, it's like Superman, Metro City, or like it's an unnamed city. Like they're in the
I
suburbs of an
thought they were in
unnamed
New
city.
York. I thought they did mention at one point like some landmarks in New York that they were going to check out or something like that.
Oh, okay. I must
Like
I must have forgot.
it's a fictional New York because the university they go to spend the weekend at is not a real university. But I thought could have sworn,
Upstate University,
yeah, it's called Upstate University as opposed to Downstate University, I guess.
which
Which
is real.
I don't think anybody outside of New York is going to know what the hell Upstate versus Downstate is anyway.
Yeah.
I think we're
Um,
probably the only idiot state that uses that.
but you're right though. Even the mom is interesting. Nolan, the dad, is ultra interesting. Invincible, the son, is interesting. You move away from the core story, and it's just like, I don't understand. Do we really care about Robot? Do we really care about his trying for romance with Monster Girl? Do we
Let's
really care?
explore that a minute. Actually, let's
Okay.
stop on that for a second because they do a damn good job of making Robot like an AI. And
Hmm.
then, ginormo spoiler warning. I hope I can find a graphic big enough for this. Giant spoiler warning. You find out later that Robot is actually a 30-something-year-old guy with a ridiculous amount of birth defects to the point that he's pretty much living in an adult-sized test tube that has legs. And he doesn't even project his consciousness into the robot that you see on screen. He's kind of remote controlling it. Let's explore that a little bit more between Robot. He's called Robot. I don't think they ever give his actual real name. I think he ends up calling himself James, but I don't think we know if that's his real name or not. So we'll call him Robot as the robot, and before you know, he's a 30-something-year-old guy living in a test tube. There's a clear attraction between him and Monster Girl. Now, Monster Girl is a spin on the Incredible Hulk that when she gets angry, she hulks out into this big green monster looking thing. The MacGuffin there is that every time she hulks out, she de ages. So she's like, I think she said she's 29 or 32. and she looks like she's just prepubescent female.
Yeah.
Like still has the long hair, but none of the other things going on.
It's a
And
curse.
Robot, yeah, it is a curse. It's a curse that does this to her. So her being monster instead of the Hulk isn't gamma rays, it's a curse. It's so freaking dumb that I can pull all this off the top of my head.
It's not compelling. It's not interesting.
Well, where I was going with this is that so she says that she's a 30-something or a 29-year-old woman, but her body looks the way it does because of the curse, because she de-ages every time she rages out. And then you have an obviously now known obviously 30-something-year-old guy that's sexually attracted to her. So how does that play? I mean, we know how it plays out in this show. I think that part is pretty damn cool. And I don't really want to give that away because the interchange between the brothers and Robot, I thought that was cool. I think that legitimized the clone brothers, especially another little nugget that moves it closer to the bleeding edge of science instead of it just being super fantastical science fiction, is when they're cloning. I'm not going to say who, or I'm going to try and keep it vague. They're making the clone.
You see the after images, right?
No, the clone wakes up and immediately assumes the clone assumes it's the alpha instead of the clone.
Right.
And the brothers are like, we have to do it this way, or inevitably you'll either kill each other or you'll kill yourself because you won't know. So they do something with their cloning process to make both think that they're the alpha, instead of one being knowing it's the alpha and the other one being the beta clone, which I thought was pretty damn cool.
Again, there's some really neat ideas in here. So, real spoiler territory, and this is something me being critical. I love David Lynch, and Lynch is all about the mystery and how.
Wait, that's Twin Peaks David Lynch, right?
Right. And how a mystery, the core mystery, can propel all these other mysteries, but the core mystery has to be incredibly compelling to drive the entire show. And the core mystery of this show is, why did Omni-Man kill I think
they call them the Guardians of the Globe.
Guardians of the Globe, which is their version of the Justice League.
Yeah.
And that mystery holds your attention so much. At the end, the answer we got, I'm not so sure lived up to the hype. Like, we still don't really know why Omni-Man killed the Justice League. Like, he really didn't explain himself. He just says he had to do it. But, like, we don't understand why he did it now. Like, I feel like maybe there's still more of that mystery left, or did I just not understand? Did you understand? Or
it is brought up, but I think it was so vague that I don't really recall what exactly they had said about it. It is mentioned in the finale. They do bring it up in the finale, and it is discussed. And I think it's something along the lines that he wanted to protect his son, or something lame.
And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't quite click what he means. Like, why would the Guardians be a threat to his son? Like, it doesn't.
Well, they do have that one guy. I think his name is the Immortal. Like, as long as you reattach his head to his body, he'll actually come back to life. So you can shred him. You know, he literally gets ripped limb from limb and gets his head torn off by Omni-Man in that fight, in the initial fight. And they put him back together and he comes back to life. And then he gets killed again, and there's like another scene where they're patching him up. I think that guy because he was able to land some hits and at least bruise Omni-Man. Oh my God, dude. That scene when he first comes in to kill the Guardians in their version of the Flash, I think he's called Red Rush. And Red Rush picks up on it before anybody else, because I guess he's more attuned to things moving fast. And he pushes the other guys out of the way. So Omni-Man actually misses with the surprise attack. And then he grabs Red Rush by the neck. And the guy is dying, like he's being asphyxiated. And he's punching Omni-Man to the point that he breaks his wrists. And he's just doing absolutely nothing. Like, he's completely, utterly, hopelessly helpless. And I thought
he's the only one that lands a hit at the end, we find out.
Yeah. Nobody else can even touch him. You know what? Going back, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
The central mystery is so good, and it just drives the entire show. Like, every episode, you keep thinking that you're gonna figure it out, and they do leave some clues. And I still feel like unsatisfied. Like I feel like, why now? What was the point? The answer is because he wanted to. After he finds out that his kid is gonna have superpowers, he was like, all right, I guess we got to take care of the planet. We got to take over the planet. Like it was.
Yeah, it's like this is our job. Like I signed up to do this. This is my posting.
Right.
This is what I do. And the other thing that he mentions is the older we get, the slower we age. So we don't even know how old Omni-Man is. He could be hundreds of years old. They make it seem like he wasn't delivered by ship, that he actually flew through space from whatever corner of the galaxy he's in to Earth.
Yeah, he didn't have the Lois and the Clark like being raised in a farm. This is one of the cool things about the Revelation. Omni-Man is not just a scout. He's the shock trooper. He's like the loyalist of the loyalists, the true believers of his people's maximalist belief system.
Yep.
Like this is a species that killed off half its own population in battle just because they value strength. They just decided there's too many of us. There's too many weak ones. We're gonna fight, and the half that lives, and the other half doesn't. They were weak. They shouldn't have lived anyway. And in that race, Omni-Man was picked to be one of their most hardcore scout shock troop pioneers.
Right. Not only was he superior to half the population of his planet, he was also cream of the crop of the half that was left.
Yeah. In his ending speech, when he was talking about superiority, I really felt that the writing, the voice acting, even the animation, it really conveyed his mentality. Like he is a god amongst these ants. Like he wouldn't be who he is. He wouldn't be doing the job he has if he didn't have this paradigm in his mind saying like, I'm just I'm a scout for a conquering species, the most powerful species in the universe, and none of this matters. None of these people matter. Nothing
Especially
under. Yeah.
especially when Invincible is haranguing Omni-Man about the mom, and Omni-Man was like, she was just a pet to me.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Like that got dark.
Again, I was saying Kirkman's doing remixes of all these things from before. If you look at Superman, he can't look at Lois like an equal. There's no way he'll ever look at Lois like an equal. He may not look at her like a pet, but he's not going to look at any human female like an equal. The
Right.
closest to equal would be Wonder Woman.
Which they've staged up to match him over the years. She used to not be able to fly.
Right.
She used to not be anywhere near that power scale. But obviously, you know what I mean, Tiral.
Yeah, it totally makes sense that like Omni-Man saw, maybe he even saw his own son as a pet until he found out that his son is one of him. And that's when all the shit changes. That's when his brain the gears start churning. Because he's like, oh, my son is one of us. He's not a pet. He's one of our people.
Right.
He's one of the conquerors. And that's when he starts doing what he does. But, before then, he might have been looking at his son like, oh, this is just a human. This is like a nothing.
He actually says that at one point. He says, I could just make another son.
Yeah.
He said, I think because Invincible asks him something along the lines of what would have happened to me if I didn't develop powers. And Omni-Man's like, I'll just make another son.
Just plain, just straight up,
Yeah,
like
completely
unfiltered.
aloof and indifferent about it. And the
Yeah.
only reason he's excited to have a son now is because the son is, I think he's a Viltrumite. I'm saying it
Viltrumite, right.
slowly so it comes out correct. Curiously, all the men on the planet have that perfectly coiffed brush mustache going on.
You want to know? I
I was
was
surprised the
listening.
women didn't have them, actually.
I was watching a Robert Kirkman interview, and they asked him like, why do all the Viltrumites, all the men, have that mustache? And he goes, it started off as a joke because my dad had a mustache like that all throughout his life. So to me, when I drew Nolan, when I drew the dad, of course he had the dad mustache, and then as a late night joke, they were like, "What if all the guys had the dad mustache?" And then it just flew off on its own. But the women don't have the mustache. But it was just this. It started off like my dad had this mustache, so I drew Nolan having the mustache because he's a dad, and then it just kind of flew off the handle. But you're
Yeah,
right, yeah. Like he didn't look at his son like his son until he was a Viltrumite, and then it was like everything changed. And
right.
he's like,
Then he
"I'm
was
gonna go on a
accepted.
journey." Yeah, like I'm gonna go on a journey with you, son. Like I don't think he was lying. I think he was going on a journey with his son, and the end. That's probably why he couldn't kill him. That last words, man. Oh my God.
Do you want to say it
Yeah.
out loud or no?
I'm gonna say, as a person who has a extremely poor relationship with my own father, and almost every guy I know who has a bad relationship with their dad, watching that scene with Omni-Man versus Invincible, like it hits you on a different level. There's some pathos, and I don't. Whew, it's a must watch.
It is good, and it ramps up well.
Yeah,
The escalation from episode to episode is really good.
you really get the feeling that Omni-Man was gonna kill his kid.
Yeah,
Like he,
yeah, you pretty much feel that after he says, "I'll just make another one," and he starts stomping a mud hole in him.
it was like an unfiltered, like what if you just hear someone unfiltered, and that's what he was doing. He was just being completely honest. Yeah, he was just making another son. It's just, big whoops. I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but then I caught it the second time. Omni-Man, he leaves the planet, and as he refuses to cry in front of his kid is crying, and he leaves the atmosphere, and it was only till he leaves like the atmosphere of the planet that a tear falls off, and you see the water coming to the camera. So there's even levels, even Nolan I mean, Omni-Man is a three-dimensional character. He's not this like villain. He has feelings, and he has unexpected emotions, and even he's surprised about the situation. Like he
Yeah,
left,
he's super surprised at his own reaction too.
so there's some depth to everything that's going on, and
You know what? I'm going to say it like this: nobody is as two-dimensional as they first seem in that show.
none of the main characters, the side characters,
Yeah, they stick to it pretty much. Like the
yeah.
gay guy just wants to get laid, and that's like the only thing he talks about. The girlfriend, Invincible's girlfriend, needs to consistently prove how much of a strong woman she is.
Here's the issue.
The Earth chick, like literally, I think she moves to the Amazon and creates a treehouse to live in.
Yeah, in the Pacific,
You
like
know?
she goes
Yeah,
to the woods. Let's talk about the girlfriend for a bit.
sure.
The issues with the girlfriend is not like the character concepts, is that they've written her so inconsistent that she doesn't make sense. She's
Yeah, she flip
angry
flops a lot. Yep.
all the time, like episode to episode. So she makes no sense, and she becomes unlikable because she makes no sense. And that's something that either they say, okay, the girlfriend thing is over, or like they fix her really fast, because next season it can't really go on like this, because she's, of all the characters, she's the worst written and least consistent. So she doesn't make sense right now, and you kind of don't want him to be with her.
Yeah,
You're
like
just
you feel
like,
like he's better off without her.
yeah,
But
you way better off.
you know,
He's way better off with Adam Eve.
right? Which, by the way, I forgot if it was you or if I discovered that it's not A D as in Delta
Yeah, it
A
was
T.
AT.
It's A T like atomic Eve.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
she has some sort of atomic powers, which is
It,
cool
it,
because she makes like these monomolecular force fields and stuff, which I thought was really neat.
she's well made. Her story is like actually kind of interesting. Like,
Yeah,
she has.
she has a lot of power. No, she has one power, but it's ultra diverse. Like she can do a lot with her one power, and she's well, okay, she's a superhero human, but she's not invincible. Well, I guess that's the wrong choice of word because that's the name of the series. She's not indestructible.
Omni Man seems to be the only one that's indestructible. Can I tell you my favorite scene besides the final scene in the last episode?
Sure.
Okay, so one of the villains that Invincible fights is this alien who transport to from different dimensions, and their dimension, the time works faster than our dimension. So they keep coming back after the defeats. They come back with more sci-fi, advanced machinery, advanced gadgetry. They adjusted a million times better than humans. Where in our timeline, just a few weeks passed. Eventually, Omni-Man says, "Okay, enough is enough," and he goes in. He goes into their dimension, and like the wife thinks, "Oh, Omni-Man's
He
just
went on a
gonna."
diplomatic mission to talk to them and
Yeah,
sort it out.
they're gonna talk it through,
They're gonna
and
talk it over. And he comes
and he,
back and he's like, "They saw my point of view." And meanwhile, I think he does everything but except destabilizing the core of their planet.
yeah, yeah, he basically does war crime, a one man constant war criminal, and the way the show animates it with the music and just it just absolute chef's kiss perfect, where he's committing war crimes all throughout the planet until like
There's
the
no one
aliens,
left.
yeah,
I don't
until
think
the
they
aliens cower and
capitulate. I
like
don't think he lets them capitulate. I think he destroyed every single city.
yeah. And we find out later at the preview for the next season that like, oh no, time moves by fast, and they're gonna come back for revenge. That was the first. No, there were hints that maybe Omni Man isn't who we thought he was, but when we saw that, we were like, oh shit, this is not the show we thought it. Whatever we thought we were watching, we were wrong. Like, we were dead wrong about what the hell we were watching. Like this is a completely different animal. That's got to be, besides the finale. That's got to be my favorite scene. What do you say?
When he's wrecking the alien planet,
Yeah. Is
I
there
think
any
I
better?
was laughing like a retard. I think when that started happening because you knew at that point. I don't think he was revealed as the bad guy, but they did enough of a job to make you suspicious of Omni Man.
Yeah.
So you knew when he said, "Well, we're going to go talk it over with him." You knew he was going to go talk it over with his fists.
Yeah.
you know. And as soon as they showed the montage of him utterly wrecking this civilization, I couldn't help but start laughing like an idiot.
It was both funny,
And
horrific,
horrifying, yeah,
yeah,
at the same time.
horrifying, badass, all like. And again, the show's animation quality is not high,
But
so
the special effects and the fight scenes, like that was pretty good animation when they had him go through the
they
portal.
they
And then
figured it out. Yeah.
I don't think he portaled back. I think he had the flyback, didn't he?
He forced them to create another portal, and once they did, he put a mountain on top of the lab anyway. Like it's just evil, like just vicious. And Omni-Man just goes, Earth is not yours to conquer. And we didn't know.
We
He
didn't
was
know it.
saying Earth is mine to conquer. Like we had no idea. Oh,
It's
she was so
true.
good.
It's really good. It's a strong recommend to watch. If you've been listening to us, you know what my usual bent is. It's surprisingly refreshing that this show does not have the requisite 15 pieces of flair minimum, aka succumb to the social justice narrative. It's still really good watch. The girlfriend is a little over the top, but other
She was
than that,
badly written. They have to
yeah,
fix
and
it.
I agree with Terrell. I
Yeah.
think it was the writing that makes her that way, not the intent. Strong recommend to watch Invincible if you haven't already. We're definitely going to review season 2 once that launches.
I say don't spoil yourself. Don't look at the comics. Don't look at the YouTube and everything. The show is worth just going in free.
I didn't read the comics. I honestly didn't know much about it. Amazon Prime was promoting the hell out of it, so it was like the full banner across the top of the page. And I was like, let me give it a shot.
Yeah, and if Robert Kirkman has an idea and wants to make another show, throw him all the money. The guy's a golden goose. Just
Right?
throw him
Just
the
keep
money.
going. Just
Yeah,
give him
like
give him EVP. Give him
don't ask questions. Give him a blank check.
yeah.
Just do it.
Give
Like
him all the titles. Get him all those top rocker titles at the beginning of any credit list.
how good would The Walking Dead would have been if it just stayed to his vision or to the comic?
It would have been superb. It wouldn't suck.
Yeah.
You know, they may have still done the Fear the Walking Dead spinoff, but if he had more input on that, I can't even honestly. I'm going to get really angry if I talk about Fear the Walking Dead because
I mean, it
the
has nothing to do
characters are
with him.
so idiotic. The mom was the whole reason they kept failing with her altruistic nonsense in the middle of an apocalypse. The only survivor was the drug addict's son because he'd already learned how to survive, on the street and stuff like that. Like they made it clear in the beginning that he would just disappear for weeks and nobody knew where he was, and he'd be out there getting high and surviving on his own. So the
It's
mother and the
just,
dad were just morons.
I just get angry thinking about the mainline TV show. Like you look at the story in the comics and you look at the story on TV and you're like, why is the story on the TV and why are the characters, why is Rick so much less than his comic version? Why is the story so much less than the comic version? It's really tough to compare them because
Mm-hmm.
especially Rick, the TV version had character assassination, whereas the comic book Rick is like a leader amongst leaders. It's super frustrating. But just throw Robert Kirkman money and don't ask questions. Let him do what he wants to do. That's my recommendation to the Hollywood industry.
So on that note, my friend, I think we're going to do Bad Batch next week. I want to catch a couple more episodes of it before I go over it.
Are they releasing an episode a week or are they putting it all together?
I think they're doing one a week, but they did two this week. They did episode one on May the 4th, because, of course. Episode two, I've been told, is up tonight, but I haven't actually checked to confirm that.
Everything I've read and heard about the show has been stellar, so I'm
Okay,
looking
real quick,
forward.
we're spending 5 minutes on it, and we have to call it a night. But it's not really a spoiler because you get this in like the first 10 minutes of the first episode. Is that the Bad Batch series is picking up just as Order 66 goes out. You'll see how it plays out. We're going to talk about it next week because I need to go back and watch for some nuances in episode one, and then I want to try and catch episode two between now and next week. All right.
All right.
All right, folks. Well, once again, thanks for joining us. As always, please continue the conversation and comment below, and please like and subscribe.